All right, welcome. We're doing a wine review. This is first of hopefully a few more. So we got a wine today. Here's the wine in the glass. Kind of an unusual color. You would describe this as unusual wine, I think. Because normally, with wine, it's normally going to be more of a regular red color or more of a regular white color, which is more like kind of a yellow color. But this is sort of in between. Rosé is sort of a popular thing these days, rosé, which, this is different than that though. It might look like that on the video, but this is like almost an amber color, like a Jurassic Park, mosquito in the crystal type hue. Anyways, this wine is, I don't know how to say it, but it's imported by Veritas Imports in Glendale, California. And it is called, I'm not even going to try to do the accent. So this is just me reading what I'm seeing here. Probably wrong. I'm going to butcher it. Vignonle reveur. And it is artisan. And it's from 2019. It is from the appellation Alsace Control A. So Control A, it probably means controlled. Alsace is like an area. I want to say it's an area in the northeast of France where it borders with Germany. Alsace-Lorraine comes to mind. And that's the appellation. And I think appellation is like, the mountains it came from, the hills, the batch of hills. So that's all I know. So there's 3 different grapes that turned into grape juice that got mixed and then turned into this wine. Here are the 3 grape species. Gewürztraminer. Gewürztraminer. Which is German, which makes sense because this is on the border between France and Germany. That's half that. 40% Pinot Gris, which is Pinot, P-I-N-O-T. There's a T in there, but you don't pronounce it. And then the second word is Gris, which is G-R-I-S. Anyways, 40% of that, and then 10% another Pinot, but Pinot Blanc. Okay? So 50, this German thing, Gewürztraminer. 40% Pinot Gris, and 10% Pinot Blanc. Let's give it a go. 2019 Vignonle du Reveur, Artisan 2019. Cool label. It's got a hand. Almost looks like pomegranate seeds, fireflies. Let's give it a go. Whoa. Very, very phenolic. A lot of acidity, citrus, nail salon. There's a little funk in there, but it's sort of a delicate funk. It's not going to creep you out, but there's something going on here. It's almost like a yeasty, fermented funk. Let's give it a taste. That's a lot. It tastes like a lot. So you drink it, and it just kind of hits you, and it kind of goes away pretty quickly. It's like a ghost coming in and leaving. But it's not subtle, but it doesn't stay long, is I guess what I'm trying to say. So it's like, I don't know if that makes sense. It comes fast and it leaves fast. And when it's there, it's loud. It doesn't really linger at all. It's just kind of gone. Yeah. There's a bitterness, but it's not like an astringency or a tannin. It's not like a tannin. It's almost like the bitterness you would get if you had a grapefruit. the aftertaste of bitter citrus, the way that that's bitter, this is bitter that way. Normally when you get like tannins in wine, it makes you feel like you have no moisture in your mouth. There's still some moisture, there's still some liquid in there amidst the bitterness, but it's not like a bitter desert, it's like a bitter ocean. Now I don't really know if this does anything, but I'm going to swirl this around, and then I'll start talking about giving it my my wine score, and we'll go from there. So let's give it a little bit of a spinning around. Why do people spin the wine? It's a good question. It brings oxygen into it. Wine's been in the bottle a long time, hanging out, no oxygen. I don't know if it necessarily makes it any better to put oxygen in it, but it changes it. And you pay a lot of money for wine, so you want to have it maybe in a few different ways. Maybe you want to have it right out of the bottle when it's just like a secret that's been brewing and it hasn't had any conversation or handshakes with the outside world for years, depending on how long ago it was made. But then sometimes you want to let it open, let it breathe, let it oxygenate, and it'll change. I think, people in the wine world think it gets better. I don't know if that's really, I think that might be simplification, but it changes, and that's good. It changes. I think a lot of the times people say the older the wine is, the longer it needs to be open before you drink it. The more oxygen it needs to sort of be the best version of itself. And I don't know. I don't know if that's necessarily true. I'm not an expert, but it just strikes me as kind of too hard and fast a rule. That can't always be true, but maybe it is. So we're going to oxygenate this, as I was saying. That can be done by just having the cork out, or the cap, whatever the mechanism may be that closes the wine off from the outer world. That's one way of doing it. The other way of doing it is pouring it into your glass, waiting to drink it. Another way of doing it is pouring it in your glass, waiting to drink it, spinning it around, which I've been doing. Or you can buy what's called a decanter, which is a big glass. You basically just pour the whole bottle into the decanter, let it sit there, and the decanter is shaped in such a way that the air gets in, allegedly, better. Also, that doesn't really make any sense to me. But here we go. Let's try this after spinning it around and giving it some air love. Yeah, it's different. It's totally different. First of all, it's not coming and going really fast. It is kind of coming as quickly as it ever came in the beginning, but it is actually kind of walking away slowly, turning around, giving you a goodbye. It's not an immediate divorce. It is it takes its time saying goodbye. Like you're leaving somebody at an airport and you can see them going down to the terminal. You're turning away. There's sort of a prolonged aspect to that. That's how this is becoming as it sits out longer. So I don't know exactly what I paid for this. I think it was maybe $32, which is a good amount of money for a bottle of wine. I think it's good value for that money because it's really unique. I don't think that this is a wine that's the best tasting wine I've ever had, but I like it because it is providing flavors that I've never had before from another wine. And just having a new experience, to me, is valuable and worth spending some money on. So I think that's right off the bat. I think it's good value for your money because you get something new. And I guess it depends on what you've had before. But for me, this is new. And I think for a lot of people, it's going to be new. It's going to be a new experience. So I think it's a buy. In terms of a score, I think it's going to be, I'm going to give it a 7. A 7 out of 10. Now that doesn't sound good, but it actually is pretty good. I'm kind of the way I like to do my ratings is, 10 is just not really even an achievable score. And then I'll do points. I'll do 7.1, 7.2. So I could have done this as a 6.9. Could have done it as a 7.1. I chose not to do that, and we're doing it as a 7 for a reason. Because I think that it's a 7. It's a 7 out of 10 in value. It's a 7 out of 10 in flavor. It's a 7 out of 10. Pretty much all the way around. You don't just accidentally buy this kind of wine. You have to go to a special wine store that has kind of weird wine. This is obviously unique. It's weird. Whatever term you want to use. I was hunting, looking for something like this, and I got it. I'm not crazy about it. I'm not freaking out, but it's really good. Finally, one of the last things I want to touch base on is food pairings. People in the wine world really like to talk about wine in relationship to food. What kind of food should I eat with this wine that I have and that I've opened or that I was gifted. A lot of times it's the other way around. You got the food, you get the meal prep. What kind of wine goes with that? Like, if I'm doing a chicken, what kind of wine? If I'm doing a steak, what kind of wine? If I'm doing something vegetarian, what kind of wine? If I'm having something ethnic, having sushi, having Thai food, having Mexican food, having Roman food, what kind of wine are you going to have with that? That's a whole art and science, how you pair food with wine. And I'm not even going to pretend to know anything about that. I think it's generally speaking the case that you want for, like kind of more of your red meats, you want like your heavier meats, your heavier meals, you want sort of like more of a red heavy wine. And then when you're having something that's maybe a little bit more light on its feet, you kind of go for a wine that's more that way, more of a lighter, maybe a white wine that's a little bit more delicate. I have heard that for spicy food, you definitely don't want red wine. You want like some sort of white wine that sort of cleanses. It's more like water because it kind of like refreshes your tongue and it makes, something like that. But I don't have any food with this. So, that whole food with wine, food, wine pairing, wine, food pairing, it's just, I don't really have I can't play this wine off of food, right? Because I don't have any food. If I had food, I could play it off the food. I could say this works with this, it doesn't work with that. I don't have any food. But what do I think it might taste good with? That's a good question. Look, this wine is just like, and I said it before, and I'll say it again. It's like a bitter citrus flavor, okay? What goes well with citrus? In the food world, what goes well with citrus? Great question. Well, usually sweeter things have citrus in them. Maybe like a cake. This would go well with cake. And you're gonna say, no one drinks cake, They don't. They eat cake. But you're also gonna say no one drinks wine while they eat cake. And that might be true, but I think you could do it anyways. And if you did it, I think this would be the wine to go for. Cake wine. That's what I'm gonna call it. Vignonle de reveur artisan 2019, a 7 out of 10 on the wine score. And good for pairing with food. It is good for cake.